You think you can humiliate me and get away with it? Margaret's voice was calm but carried a weight that made the room fall silent. She adjusted the silver necklace around her neck, the one Brian had given her on their wedding anniversary, and took a slow breath, feeling the warmth of the kitchen lights bouncing off the polished oak table, setting a serene scene that hid the storm brewing in her mind. Emily, oblivious to the subtle warning, continued arranging plates for the birthday dinner, her energy sharp and overconfident, while Brian hovered between the two, his hands nervously fidgeting with a napkin, unsure whether to intervene. Margaret observed quietly, noticing how Emily's gestures were precise yet forced, the smiles that never reached her eyes, a rehearsed charm that masked impatience and entitlement. In that moment, Margaret felt a clarity she hadn't felt in years, the sense that she could transform the evening from a potential disaster into a lesson in dignity and subtle authority. She thought about the upcoming toast, the perfect timing to reveal not words of confrontation, but gestures that carried undeniable weight, the kind that made people pause and reconsider their actions without a single raised voice. As she walked to the counter to check on the cake, she let her gaze linger on the carefully folded napkins and gleaming cutlery, imagining the precise moment when a simple redirection of attention could reveal character, prompt reflection, and bring the house to an unspoken stillness. The aroma of freshly baked chocolate cake filled the air, blending with the scent of lavender from the centerpiece on the table, grounding her in a calm that contrasted sharply with the emotional tension she anticipated. Margaret knew that patience and observation were her greatest allies, that the subtle shift of a glance, a gentle suggestion, or a poised movement could wield more influence than any raised voice or overt confrontation. Emily, unaware, continued to chatter with the kids, laughing at jokes Margaret had heard countless times, but choosing to respond with measured warmth, displaying a composure that highlighted Emily's own overzealous energy. Brian finally leaned closer to his mother, whispering a hesitant, "Are you okay?" Margaret's gentle nod reassured him without exposing any hint of anger, maintaining the illusion of serenity while her mind orchestrated a sequence of subtle moves, a quiet counterplay designed to restore respect and dignity in a family moment that could have otherwise unraveled. Every detail mattered. The placement of the chairs, the timing of the laughter, the alignment of the candles, each a cue in her invisible choreography, preparing to transform what began as an ordinary birthday dinner into an evening that would leave an indelible impression on every member of the family, subtly highlighting character, intent, and the power of measured, graceful response. Margaret took a slow step back from the table, letting her eyes travel over every detail of the room, from the flickering candles on the centerpiece to the polished silverware that caught the soft kitchen light, and she noticed how Emily continued speaking rapidly, attempting to fill the room with laughter and energy, masking the tension she had caused moments ago. Brian moved slightly in his chair, fidgeting with the cuff of his shirt, clearly uncomfortable with the awkwardness that hung over the table. But Margaret held her composure, her hands resting lightly on the edge of the counter as if she had not observed a thing, all the while planning her next subtle move. She poured herself a glass of water and held it up slightly, smiling in a way that was warm but carried an unmistakable authority. And immediately Emily faltered, her smile tightening, realizing that Margaret was not just enduring the evening but orchestrating it. Each small gesture a reminder that she still held presence and control in her own home. Margaret thought about the way she had arranged the seating for the dinner, the strategic placement of family photos that highlighted shared memories, the carefully chosen flowers that drew attention without being overwhelming, and she used these elements to gently redirect the focus back to moments of family connection, creating a space where respect could flourish naturally. The children began to speak about their school projects, sharing stories with innocent enthusiasm, and Margaret responded with attentive questions and encouraging remarks, subtly demonstrating her ability to command the attention of the room without raising her voice. And in the process, Emily's attempts at dominating the conversation began to falter as Margaret guided the flow of interaction with quiet precision. Brian glanced at his mother with a new awareness, his eyes showing a hint of admiration and recognition for the way she maintained calm and grace, managing the tension in a way that was dignified yet firm. and Margaret noticed that even small gestures, such as a nod or a softly spoken word, could have powerful influence, creating a ripple effect that shifted the energy of the room. By the time dessert was ready to be served, Margaret had already established a rhythm where the family naturally gravitated toward her lead, engaging with one another in a way that softened prior awkwardness and showcased her quiet authority, while Emily, sensing the shift, struggled to regain footing, her earlier energy now tempered by the subtle yet unmistakable guidance that Margaret exuded. Each interaction was deliberate, every smile and comment carefully measured to reinforce a sense of warmth and structure, and by maintaining this steady demeanor, Margaret transformed what could have been an evening marked by discomfort into a gathering where respect, attention, and subtle influence defined the experience, setting the stage for moments later in the evening where further understanding and realization would quietly unfold, leaving the family with an impression of composure, intelligence, and the enduring presence of Margaret's character. Margaret noticed the subtle shift in the room as the conversation continued, the energy moving away from tension toward a more balanced rhythm, and she felt a quiet satisfaction knowing that her calm approach was having an effect. Emily attempted to interject with her own stories, hoping to regain the spotlight, but Margaret responded with light, thoughtful questions that guided the discussion toward shared memories and positive experiences, allowing family members to naturally engage without conflict. Brian, now more attentive, began to mirror his mother's tone, asking clarifying questions and offering insights that highlighted the importance of listening and understanding, which encouraged the children to share their ideas openly. Margaret observed how each carefully placed comment and gesture subtly reinforced her authority, demonstrating empathy and composure while maintaining control over the atmosphere. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the gentle glow from the pendant lights created a comforting backdrop, allowing the family to reconnect over simple joys, laughter, and meaningful conversation. Margaret smiled inwardly at the small victories, a quiet compliment here, an acknowledgement there, each one carefully crafted to restore respect and harmony without confrontation. She recognized that patience and timing were her greatest allies, and by remaining poised, she could influence outcomes more effectively than any overt argument ever could. Emily's attempts to dominate the conversation gradually weakened, her body language revealing slight frustration as Margaret skillfully redirected attention toward collective experiences and shared values. Brian, now more confident in his own understanding, leaned in and contributed thoughtful reflections, further highlighting Margaret's influence in shaping the family dynamic with dignity and tact. Margaret continued to encourage the children to express themselves fully, ensuring their voices were heard and respected, which in turn subtly highlighted the importance of courtesy and mutual respect within the family. She noticed the way Emily's responses became more measured, indicating an awareness that her behavior was no longer dictating the room's energy. By the time the evening progressed to dessert, Margaret had created an environment where conversation flowed naturally, each member feeling valued and included, while still upholding the subtle structure and guidance that she had established from the beginning. The family laughter, shared stories, and attentive listening created a sense of unity that had previously seemed fragile, demonstrating the quiet power of presence, patience, and thoughtful leadership. Margaret recognized that even in moments of tension, a composed and strategic approach could foster connection, understanding, and respect, setting the stage for further insights and lessons to unfold later in the evening, leaving everyone with a sense of appreciation and reflection on the importance of maintaining dignity and grace within family interactions. Margaret noticed the soft evening light shifting through the kitchen windows, casting long shadows across the polished hardwood floor, and she felt a sense of calm as the family settled into a comfortable rhythm of conversation and gentle laughter. Emily attempted to steer the discussion toward her own stories again, her tone slightly more cautious than before, while Margaret responded with subtle affirmations and redirecting questions that encouraged reflection rather than confrontation, allowing the conversation to flow naturally while maintaining an underlying structure of respect. Brian, now more present and attentive, leaned forward in his chair and offered thoughtful commentary on the topics the children raised, demonstrating how much he had absorbed from his mother's quiet guidance throughout the evening. Margaret's eyes twinkled as she recognized the small shifts in energy around the table, how the children's excitement and enthusiasm were guided toward shared experiences rather than competition for attention, and how Emily's attempts to dominate the scene were now tempered by the unspoken influence Margaret had established. She used strategic pauses and measured gestures to keep everyone engaged, reinforcing connection without raising her voice, her tone gentle yet firm, her presence both grounding and empowering, demonstrating the subtle authority that comes from patience, observation, and thoughtful intervention. The aroma of the chocolate cake and freshly brewed coffee mingled in the air, adding a sense of comfort and familiarity that contrasted with the tension that had existed earlier, reminding everyone of the warmth and care embedded in family traditions. Margaret encouraged the children to recount their favorite moments from the week, prompting laughter and dialogue that drew Emily into a more cooperative participation, highlighting the importance of listening and consideration for others while subtly showcasing the effectiveness of calm leadership. Brian's occasional nods and quiet comments reinforced Margaret's approach, showing alignment with her values and enhancing the sense of unity around the table. Margaret continued to weave in personal anecdotes from past family gatherings, using humor and gentle reflection to engage Emily in a way that fostered collaboration rather than conflict, turning potential tension into shared enjoyment. As the evening progressed, the family began to interact with renewed attentiveness and mutual respect, and Margaret observed the subtle transformation in Emily's demeanor, a quiet recognition that dominance was less effective than genuine engagement and consideration. Every detail, from the placement of utensils to the timing of conversational turns, was utilized to craft a harmonious experience, reinforcing the importance of presence, empathy, and subtle leadership. By the end of this part of the evening, Margaret had established a pattern of graceful influence, creating a space where respect and attentiveness flourished naturally, setting the stage for further developments that would continue to highlight her wisdom, composure, and the enduring impact of thoughtful guidance in the family dynamic. Margaret poured a fresh cup of tea, the delicate steam curling upward and filling the air with a soothing aroma, and she placed it gently on the table, her movements deliberate and graceful, signaling a shift in focus toward comfort and reflection. Emily shifted slightly in her seat, glancing at Margaret with a mixture of curiosity and hesitation, sensing that the evening's subtle guidance was influencing the flow of interaction more than she had anticipated. Brian leaned back slightly, observing both women, a quiet smile forming as he recognized the balance of composure and influence that his mother maintained, the way her presence commanded attention without imposing dominance, creating a natural rhythm that the family could follow. Margaret engaged the children with questions about their favorite hobbies and recent achievements, carefully weaving in anecdotes from past family experiences that encouraged empathy, collaboration, and active listening, reinforcing shared values and mutual respect. Emily attempted to interject with her own stories, but Margaret's measured responses and thoughtful prompts gently guided the conversation back toward collective reflection, highlighting the positive energy and connection among family members. The warm glow from the overhead lights complemented the soft flicker of candles on the table, creating an inviting atmosphere that emphasized safety, trust, and attentiveness, allowing Margaret to subtly showcase her authority through calm, steady interactions rather than overt commands. Every gesture, nod, and encouraging word was timed to maintain engagement and focus, ensuring that each family member felt heard, respected, and included, while also demonstrating the value of patience, observation, and mindful participation in shaping group dynamics. Margaret noticed the slight changes in Emily's tone and posture, the way her responses became more considerate, reflecting an understanding that influence derived from composure and empathy rather than force or interruption. Brian contributed thoughtful reflections to the discussion, showing how he had absorbed his mother's subtle lessons in communication and presence, reinforcing the harmonious atmosphere Margaret cultivated with intention. The children responded enthusiastically, their energy channeled into meaningful dialogue, reinforcing the sense of community and shared experience that Margaret had nurtured, demonstrating that respect and attentive listening could transform interactions without confrontation. Margaret's eyes met Emily's briefly, conveying understanding and a gentle assertion of her role within the family, while maintaining warmth and approachability, allowing the dynamics of the room to shift naturally toward collaboration and mutual recognition. By the end of this segment of the evening, Margaret had subtly re-established her influence and presence, creating an environment where consideration, reflection, and harmony prevailed, setting the stage for continued interactions that would highlight wisdom, emotional intelligence, and the quiet power of steady, thoughtful guidance in sustaining positive family relationships. Margaret watched as the evening deepened, the soft amber glow of the dining room lights blending with the fading sunlight outside, casting gentle reflections on the polished surfaces and creating a warm, inviting atmosphere that encouraged open conversation. Emily attempted to share a story about her workday, her tone slightly more careful, yet eager for attention, and Margaret responded with thoughtful prompts and reflective questions, subtly guiding the discussion toward themes of gratitude and family support, allowing the room to maintain harmony while emphasizing shared values. Brian leaned in to offer insights, connecting the children's anecdotes with experiences he had learned from his mother, and Margaret observed with quiet satisfaction the way the family began to synchronize in their communication, each member responding to one another with attentiveness and respect. The children, encouraged by their grandmother's gentle inquiries, spoke freely about their achievements and challenges at school, their voices animated but respectful, and Margaret interjected with encouraging feedback, highlighting the importance of perseverance and consideration, reinforcing a culture of mutual respect. Emily's attempts at controlling the dialogue diminished as she recognized the subtle authority Margaret wielded through calm presence, careful listening, and strategically placed guidance, realizing that influence did not require force but could be achieved through poise, patience, and insight. Margaret noted the small but meaningful changes in Emily's demeanor, the way her expressions softened and her tone moderated, suggesting a growing awareness of how composure and empathy could shape interactions more effectively than assertiveness alone. Brian's quiet nods and thoughtful interjections further reinforced Margaret's approach, as he mirrored her attentive listening and constructive responses, creating a ripple effect that strengthened familial bonds and fostered an environment of understanding. Margaret continued to engage with the children, asking questions that prompted reflection and problem-solving, while weaving in anecdotes from past experiences that emphasized family resilience, shared responsibility, and the significance of supporting one another through everyday challenges. The gentle aroma of baked bread and freshly brewed herbal tea mingled in the air, contributing to a sense of comfort and grounding that complemented the nurturing tone Margaret maintained throughout the evening. Each carefully timed gesture, encouraging remark, and validating response reinforced the subtle structure she had established, guiding the family toward natural alignment and cooperative engagement. By the end of this portion of the evening, Margaret had successfully cultivated an environment of respect, attentiveness, and shared purpose, demonstrating the quiet power of consistent, thoughtful guidance, and setting the stage for continued positive interactions that would further reveal the dynamics of understanding, influence, and harmony within the family unit, leaving each member with a sense of reassurance, clarity, and connection. Margaret took a deep breath, the comforting scent of the evening meal still lingering in the air, and she observed the subtle changes in the room as the conversation took on a more reflective tone, the family beginning to share thoughts about what mattered most to them, their hopes, and small victories of the week. Emily's attempts to assert herself had become noticeably quieter, replaced with tentative contributions that reflected a new awareness of the dynamics at play, and Margaret responded with gentle acknowledgement, allowing Emily to feel included without dominating the exchange. Brian leaned forward slightly, asking questions that encouraged both children and adults to explore their experiences more deeply, and Margaret provided calm, thoughtful guidance, steering the discussion with subtle cues that emphasized listening, empathy, and shared understanding. The children, feeling safe and encouraged, spoke freely about school projects, friendships, and aspirations, their voices carrying excitement and honesty, and Margaret carefully validated each point, reinforcing positive behavior and demonstrating the impact of thoughtful attention. The warm glow of the dining room lights accentuated the polished surfaces and family photos around the room, grounding the space in familiarity and history, and Margaret used these visual cues to create moments of connection, reminding everyone of shared experiences and values that had shaped their family over the years. Emily, recognizing the shift in attention and influence, began to mirror the tone and structure set by Margaret, engaging in conversation that was cooperative and reflective rather than competitive or reactive, highlighting the effectiveness of patience, observation, and subtle guidance in shaping interactions. Brian, now more attuned to his mother's methods, contributed insights that strengthened the dialogue and reinforced the sense of unity, while the children responded with enthusiastic participation, their engagement flowing naturally from the balanced energy that Margaret maintained. Margaret noted every small detail, a thoughtful glance, a nod, a gentle question, all working together to create an environment where communication, respect, and understanding thrived. She reflected on how simple, deliberate actions could influence group dynamics more profoundly than overt statements, allowing for harmony to develop organically. As the evening progressed, laughter and conversation intertwined, punctuated by moments of reflection, gratitude, and recognition of each family member's contributions, creating a sense of warmth and cohesion that had previously seemed fragile. Margaret's presence, steady and composed, continued to guide the family toward thoughtful engagement, illustrating how quiet authority combined with empathy could shift the tone of interactions and reinforce mutual respect. By the close of this part of the evening, Margaret had effectively solidified a framework of influence and understanding, demonstrating the power of observation, patience, and strategic encouragement in fostering a supportive and connected family environment, leaving everyone with a sense of calm, attentiveness, and renewed appreciation for each other's perspectives. Margaret observed the subtle evening shadows stretching across the room, the warm glow of the pendant lights reflecting softly on the polished table surfaces, creating a calming atmosphere that encouraged focus and conversation. Emily shifted slightly in her seat, her energy more measured, as she spoke with an attentive tone that reflected an emerging awareness of Margaret's influence over the dynamic in the room. Brian leaned forward, carefully listening, and offered thoughtful observations that connected the children's experiences with broader lessons about patience, kindness, and cooperation, reinforcing the sense of calm and attentiveness Margaret had nurtured. The children, inspired by the steady and supportive presence of their grandmother, continued sharing their stories, their voices filled with genuine excitement and confidence, while Margaret asked questions that prompted reflection and encouraged deeper thought, highlighting the importance of empathy and consideration in interactions. Every gesture and glance Margaret made was deliberate, reinforcing her subtle guidance, while fostering an environment where family members could participate fully and respectfully, demonstrating the quiet power of measured influence and composed leadership. The room filled with the aroma of tea and freshly baked cookies, contributing to a sense of comfort and grounding, as Margaret's presence maintained a gentle yet effective rhythm in the flow of dialogue, encouraging collaboration and attentive listening. Emily's contributions became more aligned with the cooperative energy of the family, her expressions softening as she recognized that influence could be wielded through calm presence rather than assertion, and Margaret subtly reinforced this understanding through attentive responses and reflective prompts. Brian supported his mother's approach, offering affirming commentary and connecting ideas in ways that allowed the children to expand on their thoughts, creating an atmosphere of mutual respect, curiosity, and engagement. Margaret's eyes caught subtle shifts in body language, slight nods and smiles that indicated attentiveness and receptivity, and she used these cues to maintain the flow of conversation, allowing the family to deepen connections without any overt instruction. Each carefully timed remark, gentle observation, and validating response strengthened the sense of unity and attentiveness around the table, subtly highlighting the importance of consideration, listening, and shared values. By integrating personal anecdotes, thoughtful encouragement, and measured engagement, Margaret guided the family through a seamless exchange of ideas and reflections, turning potential tension into collaboration and reinforcing a culture of respect and connection. The warm and inviting environment she had cultivated allowed each family member to feel valued and understood, while Emily's behavior reflected the impact of composure, insight, and strategic guidance. As the evening progressed, Margaret maintained this balanced energy, ensuring that everyone had a voice, reinforcing harmony and thoughtful interaction, and leaving the family with a sense of calm, cohesion, and renewed appreciation for attentive communication and shared experiences. Margaret felt a quiet sense of accomplishment as the evening continued, the soft glow of the dining room lights highlighting the smiles and attentive expressions of her family, each interaction flowing smoothly under her subtle guidance. Emily, now fully engaged and speaking with a cooperative tone, shared stories and reflections that complemented the conversation rather than attempting to dominate it, revealing a newfound awareness of the dynamics Margaret had cultivated. Brian contributed thoughtful commentary, connecting the children's experiences with lessons on patience, empathy, and collaboration, reinforcing the family's shared understanding and respect. Margaret encouraged the children to explore their ideas, prompting discussion that was both reflective and enthusiastic, demonstrating how careful attention and deliberate guidance could nurture confidence, communication skills, and mutual respect within the household. Every nod, glance, and measured word from Margaret reinforced the structure of the evening, allowing each family member to feel heard and valued, while subtly emphasizing the importance of consideration, listening, and graceful leadership. The aroma of herbal tea mingled with the lingering scent of baked cookies, adding a comforting dimension to the warm, inviting environment, and Margaret used this sensory backdrop to maintain calm, steady energy that encouraged open dialogue and connection. Emily's demeanor had shifted noticeably, her responses showing attentiveness, thoughtfulness, and a willingness to participate collaboratively, reflecting the impact of Margaret's composed influence on the family dynamic. Brian's quiet affirmations and thoughtful interjections underscored the effectiveness of Margaret's approach, demonstrating how subtle guidance could foster a cooperative and respectful atmosphere. The children responded with increasing confidence, sharing ideas and experiences in ways that strengthened familial bonds and highlighted the importance of engagement and attentiveness. Margaret carefully wove in gentle anecdotes and reflective questions, providing opportunities for learning and growth while maintaining a nurturing and composed presence. Each moment, from the timing of conversational turns to the encouragement of thoughtful responses, contributed to a cohesive and harmonious family interaction, underscoring the power of strategic, empathetic guidance. By the end of this segment of the evening, Margaret had successfully reinforced respect, collaboration, and attentiveness among family members, creating an environment where communication flowed naturally. Each individual felt valued, and mutual understanding was solidified. The subtle shifts in energy, the cooperative dialogue, and the attentive participation of all family members highlighted the effectiveness of patience, observation, and thoughtful engagement in fostering a connected, harmonious household. Margaret's steady presence ensured that the family could navigate social dynamics gracefully, reinforcing shared values, understanding, and appreciation for one another, leaving the evening imbued with warmth, reflection, and a sense of calm accomplishment.